Hey guys, welcome to the Identity Shift. Hey everybody, welcome back to Identity Shift. Here with me, Tia Upshaw. I'm your girl, I'm your host. I'm excited today because I interviewed this chick about a month or so ago, and LaShawn Kenley, and she's the owner and operator. She's the founder, the creative behind People of the Suns, and I'm excited to have her on again today because we get to talk a little bit more in depth of, her business, the fashion industry, being a black woman in business, and her new rebrand. So welcome, LaShawn. How are you?
Thank you. I am doing so good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be able to see you in person. Like last time, it was like over the headphones. Like it was so impersonal. So now it's almost like, hey girl, how are you?
Yes, it's going to flow very well today.
Absolutely, absolutely. LaShawn, can you tell, the listeners and the audience a little bit about yourself? Why you started, where you came from, where you live, and what's going on?
Sure. So, as you explained, my name is LaShawn Kenley. I am from Washington, D.C. I grew up actually in between Laurel, Maryland, Upper Marlboro, Maryland. So, I had divorced parents. So, that's why I was the in between.
Ah, the in-between baby. It's all
Yeah,
right. It's all
baby.
right.
I was in between the two. But for the most part of my life, just Laurel, Maryland, Upper Marlboro, Maryland, Washington, D.C. That's pretty much the primary of my upbringing. I went to University of Maryland to that's where I studied my entrepreneurship and business management background. So the whole entrepreneurial background was kind of something I was always very interested in. I was raised in a household of entrepreneurs, so in
Lucky
house I
you.
right. So in house, I saw that all the time. My dad was a personal trainer and a retired police officer, and my sister was a hairstylist. So I always saw that, and I was just like, I'm very attracted to the freeness of time and the freeness of their schedule and just all the things that they can create in the lives that they touch and help. So that was something that was always innate in me to want to go this route for entrepreneurship.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm so happy that you mentioned that, it was basically embedded in you earlier on.
Hmm.
Um, I never had the opportunity, when people ask me, it's like, oh, you're an entrepreneur, so your mom and dad must have been. I'm like, yeah, no, in our black community, we didn't talk about entrepreneurship. It wasn't a thing. You did not risk leaving your job to start a business, right?
Yeah.
And I said purely for me, it was, a need. I had to do it to be successful. But when I come across individuals like you, LaShawn, I'm hoping that my children will
Mhm.
speak the same way you do when they get older.
Yes, exactly. Same. I do the same. I hope so too.
Oh, goodness gracious. Now, LaShawn, there's a concept I seen, and I seen it a couple of times when we were kind of looking at what you do. The slow fashion industry. What is this concept?
Yes. So a lot of people over the past, like I would say between 5 to 7 years, have been hearing the word sustainability, right? Sustainability, being
Yeah.
sustainable. It's like this over-ending buzzword that keeps popping up. And it's getting more and more popular, right? Slow fashion is a part of that world, but slow fashion is kind of like the entire embracing, well, the entire involvement of the person, the people, the labor, as well as the creation of the garment. So it's all about keeping everything morally, ethically sound as you're creating these things. So the very traditional ways of creating a garment is basically the entire opposite of fast
Yeah.
fashion. So how fast fashion is about capitalism and just being on demand, like demand and supply, and meeting that at a mass capacity. Slow fashion is about more concern over the actual creation of the garment and the people. So making sure that the resource you're using, the water, electricity, all of these things, you kind of involve everything to make sure that it's ethically made and that you're paying the people who are actually creating your garments. So yeah.
Okay, because I was like, does it mean it's slow there? What does it mean? Like I was like, it's mentioned a few times,
Yeah.
and for me, I had a class last night actually with my 16-week startup program, and we were talking about environmentally friendly and sustainability and all these things, and if you can reduce your carbon footprint as a business owner, that will kind of leverage your unique value propositions and all these other things, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the women were like, what does that mean? And I wish you were there because you could have explained it a whole lot better than I could last night, LaShawn, honestly. So I kind of gave them like the educational drift, like the lecture part that you can find anywhere. But when you say it, it kind of clicked into me exactly what you're talking about. So I do appreciate you bringing that to the fashion industry because I know there was stats that were put out in Canada not too long ago about the clothing dumps. Well,
Oh, yes, wastelands. The landfills. It's literally, especially if you live in a rural area, or a highly populated rural area, they basically just use those landfills and all the waste goes there. The oceans, they use those areas over there. It's really a problem. Like 5 or 10 years ago, it's kind of like, oh yeah, this problem may, it was still there, but people weren't really talking about it as much. And now it's like, oh, we have to talk about it. Now it's not even a thing where it's like you can pass over the topic or the subject. It's like literally in the forefront to where you have to talk about these things because it's
yeah.
in your face and it's in your neighborhoods and it's affecting you.
I couldn't believe it. I didn't even. I was like, "Oh God!" I said, "What's happened to reduce, recycle, reuse? What happens to, doing these, little giveaways, or I don't even know. But why are so much clothes just up in these landfills? Because when my clothes are too small or anything like that, or too big, I just end up giving away to, homelessness, giving it to shelters and things like that. And I'm like, why are people just throwing clothes in the dump? Like, it's just, I couldn't believe it when I seen the numbers on it.
Yeah, and that's also all a part of like conscious consumerism, right? Like it's all a part of the storyline and telling of that when you talk to people about it, they do become more conscious of like, oh yeah, I shouldn't just throw these old pairs of whatever into the trash. Like I should either hand it down to someone in my family or take it to a vintage shop or take it to a thrift store. Like the things you were doing is exactly right. That's how you keep it cyclical and giving to other people versus I don't need it, toss it, which we're in a very like Amazon
Yeah.
mind thinking. Like it's just kind of like
Yeah.
that dopamine shot of like buy, buy, buy. I can get it in 2 hours. I can get it by the end of the day. And although some of those conveniences are good, it's kind of like, but this is the effects of that, where it starts to take over too much to where the balance isn't there. And now everything is just being thrown away and you buy something new. You know what I mean?
Oh my goodness, it's so true. Let me tell you, I have never really thought about it until when I seen the news about it, and then when I'm hearing you talk about it, and I'm like, we need to do better because we do know better now.
We do
It's
know
a thing.
better.
We do know better now. Why aren't we doing better? And
Yeah.
that leads me into my next question here or topic, I guess. It's mentioned about you that you're big on, empowering other women, other Black women in business, community engagements, and whatnot. How do you view that as an alignment with your business? How are we able to take what you're doing and put it into community and advocate for other women who are coming up?
Yeah, so for me, like People of the Sun is all about community because we also not we're a lifestyle and women's apparel brand, right? So of course the women's apparel brand part is all the glamour and things that you see in
Yeah.
pieces, right? But then the other side of that is also about like the community part. That's what the lifestyle part is. It's about the
Yes.
engagement, it's about the events, it's about us coming together and talking about women's health. It's about us talking about spirituality, the mental, the wellness of it all. So that's what we do pretty much every other month is have those different type of engagements to where we get other business owners, or sometimes it's just a business owner lockout, right? So like meeting
Wow.
just get local business owners. Predominantly, most of us are Black and brown women, and we just talk about different resources, tips we can give each other, just woo-sawing and venting.
Really? That sounds so much fun.
Yeah, so we just kind of just lay in on that, as well as like, hey, what ways can we possibly collaborate for future events, summer, spring, all of these different things. So it really just gives that community of not competition, but collaboration within the area of owners. And then outside of events for owners, we do a lot of like sip and hennas and stuff like that, just ways to keep our shoppers, yeah, keep our shoppers engaged with one another and really to let them know like we're not just here for you to shop our brand, but we also
Yeah.
want to get to know you as well as you get to know us, who owns the company as well as who works for the company. So there's a lot of different things we hire within our community. So a lot of these, well, not a lot, but many of these people who come to our events for these different things we do, we actually end up using their service
Using
for
them. Yeah.
activity or hospitality hotels or restaurants, like all of these
Oh
different.
wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm a firm believer of that too. Like when you come to an event that I'm hosting or anything like that, or if I see you in at other events, and I know you're a black woman in business, I always call. I'm like, hey, I know you cook and you do catering, you do charcuterie boards, whatever it may be. I'm
exactly.
having an event. Do you want to, come? Let me know what your price is. Blah blah blah. So
Yeah.
I try to, not just build up, black women entrepreneurs who are affiliated with me, but outside people in the communities that don't even realize they're entrepreneurs yet.
Right, exactly. But sometimes they get the interest of just being in the community of
Yeah,
women, being in those events, like, oh,
it's true.
okay, yeah,
With we love helping, we love the social impact, we love doing all these things. But the nitty gritty part of being, in business is totally different as a black woman in business. What are some of the challenges, especially in the fashion industry,
yeah.
LaShawn? What are some of the challenges that you say you faced over the last, couple of years with starting this and scaling it and, watching your carbon footprint? Like, what has been going on?
Yeah, so for me, I definitely would say it's access. It's forever and always access. I hear that along many industries when it comes to Black women owners, the access then goes into visibility, right? So it's kind of just like you need the access to even be in some of those rooms where the conversations are happening about funding, about investors, about
Yeah,
all of these things. And if you're never in the room, you never are aware of the opportunity. Outside of being in those rooms for the access to information, because it's really about the access to information. Because once you know and understand where to go, where to be, X, Y, and Z, then you can kind of create however you need to get there to be there for whatever access you need for capital and funding, right?
yeah.
I was luckily fortunate enough to get funding from Fearless Fund, to get funding from Tory Burch Foundation. So just being aware and being a part of certain networks, Fearless Fund Network, Hello Alice Network, I Fund Women Network, just
Yeah.
being on those websites and literally searching for different grants. I would have like accommodate 1 or 2 hours a week to just search for grants.
Bingo.
Yeah,
Bingo.
yeah.
Yes.
I would accommodate that time, make it a priority.
It is access, and I think people say it's only access to funding. No, it's access to resources, it's access to networks, it's access to mentorship, it's access. If we don't have the access, we don't know what's out there. There's
100%.
networks like you found all these grants, LaShawn, in networks that you only know about because you put the work in to find them. Because
Right.
the access is not really out there for us to know about these networks.
100%. And like how we were talking about before, if you didn't grow up in an environment where you were around entrepreneurship and had the access to those people to know where to go to even research these things I was researching, that's another hindrance because a lot of us, especially this generation, you're the first time entrepreneur in your family.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're starting the blueprint for this journey. So it's literally just about having the tenacity and the confidence and the perseverance to just keep researching, but we need the access to that information, right? We need the access to
Yeah.
those rooms. And then outside of that, we need the visibility because if we aren't visible, if we don't have the rooms, if we don't have the vendor space, if we don't have the buildings for people to come and shop us, if we don't have the marketing dollars and
It's
funding
not going
to
to happen.
right. We need the marketing dollars to even put ourselves on a digital platform for people
Hmm.
to see our website, for people to see our social media accounts. Like isn't even Instagram anymore. You have to have money to be seen on Instagram now as a business
It's
account.
crazy. And I don't even know. I said this to a colleague of mine. If you don't have money, you're not seen on Instagram. It's not the platform it was 5 years ago. Not 10, 5 years ago.
Yes, yes. Like literally 2020, marketing as a small business owner is completely different 2023 and 2024
Yes,
now,
it is.
you know? And now it's just kind of like if you don't have at least 5 to 10K to market your business digitally on these social media platforms, you're not getting seen
No,
comparison to the larger enterprise businesses who are literally using these platforms just like you are. So now you have to compete with them. So
it's
visibility
constant.
is an issue. It's a huge issue.
And we're talking about like social media and the difference. There's a huge difference. social media, yes, you have to have that 5 to 10K put in, but then when we get in traditional media, oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Like I do a segment called Tuesdays with Tia on CTV Morning Live, Atlantic here in Nova Scotia, and it's one of the biggest news stations that we have. And I opened up my calendar to invite new guests to come on, and we have a lot from Toronto, but Toronto's like 18 hours from us. And I said, like, it wouldn't make sense for you to come. And I have women saying, yes, it would. Because we don't have the opportunities up here to get on mainstream TV, morning news
Yep.
up here. We'll travel to you. And
Uh-huh.
that's sad. Like, some people would be like, oh my God, I feel so good about that. No, I don't. Because the fact someone has to get on a plane, pay airfare to come down and travel for a 6 minute segment
Yes.
just to have that traditional mainstream media presence for her business is
Right.
absolutely disgusting.
Yeah. And then think about like festivals, right? Festivals are huge, especially for Black women entrepreneurs. We need the Essence festivals. We need the Curly Girl festivals. Like we
I
need these things
know,
because those are our customers, right? Um,
literally.
festivals are now 5 to 10K, 15K to be a vendor. And then you're adding on the travel costs, you're adding on having your staff there and paying them. So things are adding up. And as we all know, like our economy in America right now is crazy. Like
Oh, it's insane.
inflation's out of control. So you're trying to literally figure out how you can balance and stay afloat within being a small business owner with all of these different like tactics put in your way.
And it's sad, and it's actually scary when you think about it, because for me as a business owner, and you can probably relate to it, we don't easily get mad at why someone has influx in vendor fees. We try to sit back and think, well, maybe it's overhead, maybe something else is going in on the back end. And if you can make that make sense to me, that's why you're doing it, then fine. But if you're just trying to be money hungry and grubby, I don't like that.
Yeah, and
I
some
don't like it.
sometimes it might be, one or the other, right? I definitely get it where it's like some of these places have to have stadiums and large spaces, so yes, that costs more. When it
Yes.
makes sense, it makes sense, but like you said, it has to make sense.
It has to make sense. If it makes sense to me, I'll agree to it and I'll pay it. But
Right,
if it doesn't, and you can't give me that basic economic background of why you're doing it,
right.
I'm out. I'm out. No, thank you. No, thank you. Um, you're very busy and you wear many hats. But how do you find the time, LaShawn, to be so engaged in community and still, like, even when I'm talking to you, yeah, you love business, but I feel like you're about the impact.
Hmm.
Like, you are very much about the impact and what you would leave behind, what people would say about LaShawn. How do you find the balance and the time to do everything that you're trying to do?
Um, I think it's just one, a part of who I am and my upbringing. My parents are very much so the same way, so I think it's just in the blood at this
Okay.
point. But on top of that, it's just something that fuels me. I holistically believe it's something that God just has me on a mission to do. So it just doesn't even feel right to not be community focused, to not see ways of how my business also helps others as well as other businesses help me. It's just
Mm,
it's all in one. So for me, I don't do like community and business separate. It's like the two are one. There is no business without community. That because the community also supports your business. So
absolutely.
we
Absolutely.
cyclical, and at the same time you're offering hopefully a very quality product. You're offering something that stimulates and helps the economy within the area where you are. Hopefully you're hiring within your community, so
Yes.
it's supposed to be a very cyclical thing. So for me, one can't be without the
The
other.
other. Girl, that is that I'm glad you answered that way because that's truly who I am. One cannot be without the other.
Hmm.
And I think if a lot of businesses, not just black businesses or black women in business, but businesses start thinking that way
Hmm.
and ensuring that, the foundation of their businesses, the layouts of their businesses have a community impact portion,
Yeah,
we'll be all a little bit more better, right?
exactly.
Um, it's not always about the money. Sometimes that impact can open up doors for you that no money could have opened up doors, or no PhD, or no, MBA could have done for you, right? So I'm really big on the community aspect. What are some of your like key lessons you learned? I would say in the last year. Two key lessons you learned in the last year.
Two key lessons. Okay. Definitely maintain and always sustain your relationship with God. I have, it has been, the past year and a half has been extremely beautiful. It's been extremely hard, but through those hard lessons also beget the beauty of that as well, right? So it's kind of just like me having a full understanding and deepening my relationship with God, especially in these times we're in right now where you're just like, what is what? And things are
What is
getting,
going on?
yeah, things are just looking very uncertain at all times, right? And then the changes that you just keep getting hit with as a human, right? So I'm just like, no, 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 no. I need to ensure that every step of this path that I'm going on, whether it's professionally or personally,
Yeah.
that he has his hand on everything and that I'm rooted in him, which also is what brought about the name change and the rebrand and all of these things.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like deepening in that. I feel like we, as a community of Black people in general, we're always on search for our identity, where we come
Yeah.
from, a lot of things taken and stolen from us. And we're looking for those answers, and they're kind of like a sting, like a thorn in us, right? We're
Yeah,
always wanting to
it's
know
true.
that specific answer, which is why even a part of the reason of starting the business is so that the community of us is always intact and in one, right? That we're always helping. That's why I was like, it can't just be an apparel brand. It has to be lifestyle and apparel. It has to be about us, right? And the regalness and beauty of us and how we exalt at all things that we do. That is why I started the business. Unfortunately, I started the business under a name that I didn't understand was against my beliefs.
Oh,
Yeah.
that okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So that part was revealed to me summer of last year, to where it started this whole snowball of rebranding and changing the name and making sure that everything I represent is accurate and correct about the God I represent, Christ, Jesus, like it all fall in line, as well as that is where our regalness, that is where our resilience and all these things come from, right? So my business is to remind people through fashion and all these things of who we are and our culture, and we exude those prints and fabrics from different countries and Caribbean and all of our backgrounds, so that we can always feel, uplifted in who we are in our culture. But a part of that culture is first and foremost our spirituality, and if we don't have that intact and knowing who we are and where we came from and the power that we have, we are kind of always in this limbo. That's where that thorn comes from. That's where that I'm trying to find my identity comes
Yeah.
from, right? So having that encounter happened last year. My business used to be called Sun Gods, to
Yes.
where I had my love for the sun and God put together, not realizing that sun god is actually a whole nother deity, and that people worship various gods. Like I was so ignorant to the fact of people worshiping various gods, that I just never thought about that. I all thought we had our own traditions and the religion of that tradition, but that at the end of the day, we all were serving the same God. And he just was like, hey, I need to talk to you real quick,
Real
because
quick.
you want to get deeper in relationship with me. You drew more closer to me. Now I'm going to draw
Oh.
closer to you. I need you to change that name. And I
Did
found out why very, very quickly.
did you find it hard to do that change up, like that rebrand?
I didn't find it hard to do the rebrand, because before, so I started to change the name earlier this year, right? Last year, I had this encounter where I just wanted to get deeper with God. I was like, this can't be it. I feel like it's more.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just need to read the Bible from beginning to end, because I don't know anyone, to be honest, who have read it from beginning to end, but we all have a lot of opinions on it. And for me, I can't formulate a 100% opinion on something that I don't know all the facts about. So last year, I was just like, I'm going to read it myself from beginning to end and make sure I fully understand it. And in doing that, that's where all these little changes, like stop doing this, do more of this, go here. Like I'm telling you, when people say he speaks, this is one of the ways of
This
how
is
he
what you're
speaks.
saying, yeah.
Yeah, and we have to, we just have to, we've been very decolonized in this world, right? Especially as Americans, very heavily so because of slavery. And we were taught, like, basically don't read the Bible, stay away from it, they manipulate it.
Yeah.
And, and it's like, but was that a manipulation actually? Because
Facts,
in
facts,
reading,
facts.
I've learned a lot about where we come from. I learned a lot about Africans being from, starting within Israel. I learned a lot about, which wasn't called Israel at the time. It was Canaan that turned into Israel. So it's just a lot of information that we are missing by not reading it. And I'm definitely, part of my title is Identity Advocate Slow Fashion Designer. And
It is.
identity,
It is.
so the identity advocate part is like about us knowing truly who we are and the power that is within us, and when we have our women engagements, these are the things we talk about in our sip and
Yeah.
hennas. Like, this is the information, and it's very empowering and confident building when you know who you're rooted in and what you stand for. And then you build
100%.
on that. You build on that. You can't have a business without knowing who you are. Then you're able to get shifted and manipulated in various ways that you might not even know about, hence me changing a whole business.
Literally.
Yeah, so that's where the business name literally came from, was like, all right, I love the sun and I love God and I put it together, but having the two together means a whole other deity that's not him, right? It means
I
wrong.
mean, I'm glad that you caught on to that quick now,
Yes,
before you went like years, 10 years down the road.
six years in though, I'm like, whoo, that's a lot. And that's another thing. A lot of people were like a lot of business owners were like, are you willing to change the name? You're already like 6 years in. Maybe you
Got
can just
to. You
explain.
have to.
Yeah, well, for them, they were like, maybe you can just explain your
No,
reasoning of why. And I'm like, it doesn't matter.
because
It,
it wouldn't be right to you. It
it
wouldn't be
would
right to
be
you.
right, right. And it would dig in me all the time. So I just couldn't. So the change of People of the Sun, SON, was basically like an ode back to him and rededicating the business back to him. And we are people of God. We are people of the Son of God. So that is where that came from, People of the Sun.
Wow, 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 wow. What are some of your upcoming projects or events? Do you have any initiatives coming up? Any new launches? What, like, I mean, if you're allowed to say it, do you have anything coming up, in the next few months, LaShawn?
Yes, so the rebrand literally started back in April, and we're now in the part of like really kind of redoing our website. So in fall, we have our fall collections and winter collections coming out. So literally mid to end September is where we're going to do our big kind of release and relaunch under our new name. So people are aware of our new name because we put it out back in May. But basically, now they get to see the brand more in person and shop our new collections, and events start to resume. So the resuming of the People of the Sun brand will begin in this fall, winter.
Okay, perfect. I'm excited. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you. I'm excited. Well, we are at the towards the end of this segment. Looking ahead, what are your long-term goals, LaShawn, for?
Yes, for People of the Sun. So basically, long-term goals is kind of starting now, but I can see the progression of where it's going. So
Yeah.
for myself being an advocate, I definitely am talking to more schools, and the schools meaning college, universities, in regards to their identity and how they can use fashion to portray that message the way they intend to portray it. A lot of the women, and young girls within university, is kind of just like they're trying to figure things out, and they're using culture to give them that understanding. And sometimes culture is not giving us the best representation in regards to what to wear and our identity of itself. So it's really about me speaking more to them
Yeah.
about their identity and how they can use fashion to exude something that's regal and powerful. So that's a segue that I'm doing with more speaking engagements to the youth and young women at universities. As a business, we're definitely just going to continue to do
Oh,
more.
I'm excited.
Yeah, yeah, more fabric sourcing throughout the diaspora and bringing connection of our fabric and slow fashion together, and keep bringing beautiful, gorgeous apparel to our consumers. Like, we're definitely
As
all
you do.
excited about that.
As you do, as you do. If people were interested, LaShawn, in just checking you out, but purchasing from you, partnering with you, wanting to do a collab with you, or anything like that, and I will list these on the social media and the podcast um, links. But if you want to share with the people how they can directly get in contact with you, that would be great.
Yes, absolutely. So if you want to contact me directly, I would definitely say email me at LaShawn at peopleofthesun, SON online.com. You can email the business at info at peopleofthesunonline.com. You can
Hey,
also
give
check
it all out.
Oh, yes. And you can also check us out on Instagram, People of the Sun Online.com, People of the Sun Online. So everything is the same. People of the Sun Online. You can follow us on
I
all of
have
those
it.
social media platforms. Yes. And
Okay,
then the
perfect. I just
website
wanted to
will
make
be coming
sure.
out. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you're very well, like, it's not hard to find. Your name's very easy. Even if you Google it, it did pop up for me too. So, I mean, it's not like the SEO is not there. Like, it's out there. Facts, it is
Yes.
out there.
Yes.
Well, I
Yes.
really appreciate, the time that you gave to me and you gave to Identity Shift because a lot of women, a lot of black women in business are going to take away from a lot of gems that you dropped today and the knowledge that you were spilling and you kept it, 100% authentic to who you are with, being very vulnerable. So I do appreciate that, LaShawn.
Yes.
And hopefully we can get you back on again in the future to talk about a different topic with regards to black women empowerment because that's something that I am equally very, very passionate about, and I can feel that vibe from you too.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I'm already in.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you to our listeners and our viewers for joining us on Identity Shift. And until next time, guys, enjoy your day. Thank you for listening to Identity Shift. See everybody next week.